Before I get stuck in, I use Humbrol mask oil to protect all the glazing. Simply apply by brush over all the glazing, and once dried it peels away relatively easy. Using Humbrol Matte 64, I'm going to start the fading process. This is done in a dry brush method by removing as much paint from the brush as possible. The model is masked up to protect it from unwanted areas being hit by the wrong colour. Here I'm using a stiff brush and applying the paint in a stipple motion. It may take several passes to get the desired effect. The same process is carried along the body sides, again using the same stipple motion. Going over the same area repeatedly will also build up the layers to the desired effect. To fade the yellow, I'm using Humbrol Matte 34 and Matte 99. Dipping the brush in yellow and a very small amount of white is required in the corner of the brush. Then mix the two together and wipe the brush out on a piece of paper. Again, stipple the paint on as before in the previous step. Once the faded effect is fully dried, this then gets locked in using Humbrol acrylic spray in satin. This is sprayed over the entire model and acts as a barrier, preventing the faded effect from being accidentally removed later on in the process. For all further dirt colours, I'll be using acrylics from the Rail Match range, made up from weather black, brake dust, frame dirt and roof dirt. These are all diluted around about 50-50 for airbrush use. To start off, I use roof dirt, which is swept over the roof in a sideways motion. This will simulate the direction of how the dirt is washed off and will also collect on the body sides. Next up, I'm using frame dirt and targeting areas of interest like vents and grills. The front ends are also hit with a few short blasts. Then a single pass along the lower body sides and the rooftops. Taking isopropyl alcohol and mixing it with water. This is done to around about 2 parts iso to about 1 part water. This is used to aid the removal process. Using a brush moistened in the mixture, carefully brushed over the area where I want to remove the dirt. I work in a vertical motion to simulate the direction that the dirt would be washed off, as per the roof. It's also recommended not to work in the same spot for too long. Isopropyl is a very harsh substance and will eat through the layers, so 3 to 4 brush strokes is adequate enough to remove the top layer of paint, leaving the protective varnish untouched. The same process is repeated on the loco front and really shows the benefits of this process with the yellow in contrast. Next up in the airbrush is weather black. With this colour I'll be aiming to hit areas of the exhaust ports and the roof van. With the airbrush rinsed out, I then move on to brake dust. This colour is hit along the underframes. This can be applied as random as you like, but do avoid hitting the body sides at this stage. Again, the airbrush is rinsed out from the previous colour and then partly filled with some frame dirt. 2 or 3 quick passes along the underframes is done, and this is also blasted up the body sides as well, ever so slightly. Now I'm ready to apply some washes. For this I make my own using a combination of Humbrol weathering powders in dark earth, black and white, some matte coat varnish and enamel thinner. An equal amount of each colour is mixed together with a dash of varnish and enamel thinner until you've created a paint. Further thinner is added until the mix is really thin and watery. With this wash, all raised and sunken detail can be picked out. As the wash is very thin and solvent based, a light touch on the surface and the wash will flow on its own all around all the right areas. This technique is really great for making details such as shut lines, vents and underframe detail pop. Seen here on the front, the wash just flows in all the right areas using the capillary action with just one touch. Using some Vallejo pale blue grey. Again, I do a touch of dry brushing. This time, with virtually no paint on the brush, I hit all the underframes. Buffers are greased up with some weathering powders in black with a very slight hint of white. For this I just dip the cotton bud in some matte coat varnish, then straight into the dry powders and then dab that straight onto the buffers. With all the effects applied, I lock the lot in using Tester's dull coat varnish. Once sealed and dried, all the mask oil is then fully removed from the glazing and the whole weathering process is complete.